You ever have one of those nights where your entire world shrinks to the size of your front porch? Yeah, that happened to me. Picture this. The air is heavy with cut grass and blooming azaleas. But it's the cold, oily tang of a gun that hits you first, because my HOA president, the infamous Karen Hubert, is standing 10 feet away, pointing a revolver at my 7-year-old daughter over unpaid. Fines. Rules are rules, she says. You know what I mean? That's the kind of moment that's so ridiculous it feels unreal, like your brain refuses to compute it, but your body knows better. Heart pounding, hands sweating, every instinct screaming to shield your kid. Now, the porch is crawling with red and blue lights, sirens bouncing off every manicured lawn. There are cops crouched behind. Open cruiser doors, guns drawn on Karen. My wife Tara's in the house, phone to her ear, voice steady as stone because that's just who she is, our anchor even as our lives spin out. Meanwhile, I'm the idiot standing between a gun and my little girl, desperately trying to play peacemaker. My daughter Gina is clutching a pink crayon like it might protect her. She doesn't understand. She's 7. Her universe until that night was unicorns and sidewalk chalk, not the muzzle of a .38. But let me back up a sec, because no one ends up in a showdown like this overnight. It started, as all suburban nightmares do, with a piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. A $50 fine for parking my 10-year-old sedan in my own driveway overnight. My crime was violating aesthetic standards. Apparently, my car wasn't pretty enough to sleep outside in Hollowoods County. My wife just raised an eyebrow. Gina asked if my car was ugly, and I tried to laugh it off. But the next fine came the following week. $100 for Gina's basketball hoop at the edge of the driveway. Meanwhile, the neighbor's pirate ship playset and the miller's own hoop went untouched. It was just us. So I started keeping score. Walks with a legal pad, tallying every violation, every car parked overnight, every unapproved mailbox. Nothing happened to anyone but us. I tried to be reasonable. Voicemails, emails, showing up at the HOA meeting only to get shut down by Karen's gavel and her 2 sycophants. She looked right at me, that tight-lipped python smile, and said, "The rules are the rules. Maybe if you followed them instead of questioning them." The rest of the room stared at their feet. Fear is contagious, you know? That's when Tara, who's got a mind like a scalpel, started digging. Old paralegal tricks. She found the bylaws were vague on purpose, that fines had exploded since Karen took over, and that liens were piling up on homes. Yet the pool was green, the clubhouse roof leaked, and no one could say where the money went. Until Tara found it. A chunk of HOA dues funneled to HW Management Solutions, LLC, a generic shell company, owned by a man named Walter Pike, who turned out to be Karen's cousin. It wasn't just petty tyranny, it was a racket. We had the proof, but no way to connect all the dots. Then, one night, the power at our house went out. Only ours. No storm, no accident. I checked the breaker and found it had been switched off by hand. That was the warning shot. When I came back up the driveway, I got jumped. Big guy, smelled like cigarettes and beer, tried to rough me up until Tara came out yelling with the phone in hand. He bolted, but the message was clear: back off or else. The cops were polite but useless. Could be a burglary, sir. Yeah, right. That attack was a line in the sand. We bought cameras, installed them everywhere, and started building our case for real. But we needed an inside man. Enter Arthur Pinter, a nervous, quiet board member with a conscience, an accountant, the only one who ever looked uncomfortable when Karen twisted the rules. I found him in his garage, organizing tools, and laid out what we knew. He was terrified, but he listened. With a little encouragement and a lot of moral arm twisting, we got him to wear a wire too. The next board meeting. While we waited for Arthur's big moment, we fought back with the same petty rules Karen loved so much, documenting every inch of her non-compliant roses and mailbox, flooding the board with anonymous, by-the-book complaints. I even recruited neighbor Nate, who was more than happy to help by staging an army of ridiculous lawn gnomes all over the neighborhood. Every gnome had a joke about Karen's and HOAs. It drove her nuts, but it was the audio from Arthur's wire that finally tipped the scales. Karen, on tape, bragging, "It doesn't matter what they cost. Us and legal fees. We'll always make it back on the liens." That was the money shot. With Tara's help, we put together a mountain of evidence and called a special meeting. People were scared. But after I quietly told a few about the night someone tried to hurt us, signatures started piling up. The clubhouse was packed when I got up to present. Pie charts, flow charts, bank records. A Facebook photo of Karen hugging her favorite cousin, the same one cashing checks from the HOA. And finally, the audio. As her own words filled the room, the fear broke. Neighbors started shouting, calling her a thief, demanding her resignation. Karen tried to spin it, then made the classic mistake. She whispered a threat into a hot mic. I'll put so many liens on his house. He'll beg me to foreclose. Game over. She stormed out, but I knew it wasn't over. That night, the cameras caught her circling our house, and when she came back, gun in hand, it was all recorded. Every terrifying second. The police arrived in time, tackled her on our porch, and this time the law worked in our favor. The DA took one look at our files and said, "This isn't a civil matter. It's a criminal enterprise. Fraud, extortion, assault, child endangerment." Karen was hauled off, and after a brief stint out on bail, where she tried to threaten me in a courthouse hallway. Not realizing the DA was standing beside me, the judge threw her back in jail until trial. The jury didn't need long. Audio, video, the paper trail, and Arthur's testimony sealed her fate. Karen Hubert, once queen of Hollowoods County, was sentenced on every count. The HOA got new leadership. Arthur, the reluctant hero, was elected president. The bylaws were rewritten. Every dollar accounted for, every rule clear. The pool sparkled again. Neighbors talked to each other. The barbecue felt like a party, not an obligation. At home, the tension faded, replaced by laughter and actual peace. The Real win was for Gina. Her nightmares stopped. One night, I watched her sink shot after shot at the basketball hoop that started all this. She drew a picture of our house and every house on our street, all connected by a rainbow of smiling stick figures. I nearly cried right there. So, yeah, we didn't just survive a bad HOA. We took it down. We learned the system only works if you show up with proof, not just outrage. You can stand your ground, literally. If you're dealing with your own Karen, start small. Document everything. Talk to your neighbors. Build your case. And when the time comes, shine that spotlight and don't look away. Now I'll leave you with this. Justice isn't perfect, but sometimes, if you push hard enough, the truth actually wins. So, what would you have done in my shoes? Did the punishment fit the crime? Or did it go too far? Comment below. Let's hear where you stand on justice, community, and the fine line between order and tyranny that you'd think after a courtroom drama like that. Things would just settle. Like, you put the villain away, everybody gets their happy ending, fade to black, roll credits, right? Yeah, I thought so too. But reality, it's messy, eh? There's no neat bow on top, no feel-good montage, just this weird, lingering sense that you're living in the aftermath of a hurricane, and you're supposed to act normal while sweeping up the debris. The first week after Karen went down, it was almost awkward, like nobody knew how to be neighbors anymore without a dictator breathing down their necks. People peeked out their windows, then started coming out onto porches with coffee, chatting with folks they'd only ever waved at across the street. You could actually feel the neighborhood exhale, like we'd all been holding our breath for years and finally remembered how to let go. But rebuilding trust isn't as easy as fixing a leaky clubhouse roof or cleaning up the pool. For months, everyone was a little jumpy, myself included. Every time a new letter came in the mail, my stomach twisted until I remembered Karen wasn't here anymore. The board was run by Arthur now, and he'd sooner eat his own audit reports than let things slip back into the old ways. Honestly, Arthur was kind of a revelation. The guy who used to sweat through HOA meetings in total silence was suddenly the most determined leader on the block. First thing he did was bring in an outside auditor. No more funny business with budgets. Then he posted every cent spent, every bylaw, every meeting agenda online for anyone to see. He even set up a suggestion box at the clubhouse. And let me tell you, the ideas ranged from the brilliant new bike racks to the completely unhinged llama therapy day, courtesy of neighbor Nate, who never misses a chance for a laugh. And Tara? I swear, she was the real MVP. She organized a Meet Your Neighbor potluck and somehow got 3 generations of residents, plus every kid on the block, to show up. Gina ran wild with her friends, pooping in our driveway. No one threatened, no fines in sight. Tara even started a neighborhood newsletter, little stories about people's gardens, dogs, birthdays. For the first time, Hollywoods County actually felt like a community, not just a cluster of houses hiding behind hedges and worry. Of course, you don't erase the bad stuff overnight. There were scars. Gina still asked me, sometimes in a whisper before bed, if the mean lady was coming back. I'd hug her tight and promise, nope, not ever. She believed me, mostly. I think I was saying it as much for myself as for her. As for Karen, turns out prison is a lot less glamorous than HOA. Royalty. She tried every trick in the book to claw her way out, but with the evidence we handed over, even her fancy lawyers couldn't find daylight. She sent letters, tried to sue for slander, claimed we set her up. None of it stuck. The court gave us a permanent restraining order, and every time the phone rang with a weird number, I just let it go to voicemail. I figured if the universe wanted to throw more Karen at me, it could wait its turn. But the weirdest part? People outside our neighborhood started calling. Folks from 3 towns over, even a reporter from the city, wanting to know how we did it, how we took back our HOA. I almost laughed, like we were freedom fighters or something. Honestly, we were just a tired family who'd had enough and happened to have a genius with a laptop and a guy willing to get punched on his own porch. Sometimes, late at night, I'd walk the block and see the porch lights on, people laughing inside, kids' bikes tossed on the grass, and I'd think, we really did this. Not just for us, but for everyone who ever thought they had to put up with a bully, because that's just how it is. It isn't. You don't have to bow your head and take it. You can stand up, even when your knees are shaking. We even had a neighborhood celebration the week after Arthur's reforms went into effect. There was barbecue music, games for the kids, and, for the first time ever, no speeches about garbage cans or mailbox colors. Instead, Arthur raised a toast, with lemonade, because he's Arthur, thanked everyone for trusting him, and said, "This is your home. You get to say what home means." And for the first time, nobody rolled their eyes. Gina brought me her latest masterpiece the other day, a drawing of our house, surrounded by stick-figure neighbors, all holding hands under a rainbow. No guns, no angry faces, just smiles. I taped it to the fridge right next to her old unicorn sketch, the one she made the day after Karen came to our door. A reminder that you can survive the worst and still build something good if you fight hard enough and love stubbornly enough. So here's my takeaway for what it's worth. Sometimes the battle's not about winning in the big, dramatic Hollywood way. Sometimes it's about hanging on, day after day, pushing for small changes, watching the light come back into your life and your kids' eyes. Sometimes it's about building the kind of neighborhood you'd actually want your child to grow up in, even if it takes a war to get there. And if you ever find yourself facing a Karen of your own, just remember, you don't have to fight alone. Find your allies, gather your proof, stay loud, stay patient, and don't back down. Even if your voice shakes, say the truth anyway. You never know who's waiting for someone else to go first. So, now that you've heard the whole saga, I gotta ask, what would you do if your HOA president snapped? How far is too far when you're fighting for your home? I want to hear your wildest HOA stories, your wins and your losses. Drop them below, and let's remind the world that you don't mess with people's homes and think nobody will stand up. Because, trust me, you never know when the quiet ones will fight back hardest. Yeah, that's my story. And for once, the good guys get to sleep easy at night.